So we continue the work of UCMC with the project of UCMC-DOBRE project, community spokespersons, and we are speaking about local governance reform that started in 2014, and it is planned to be finished in 2020. This reform got a lot of people who like it. More than half of people support this reform, but also there are people who oppose it. They believe that Ukrainian villages will be ruined because of this. So we have our guest, Mariya Dyskant, head of Zabolotsivska community, and she believes that this reform will make our life better. So our guest is Mariya Dyskant. She is head of Zabolotsivska amalgamated community from Lviv region. Thank you for being with us today. And I would like to ask you, so you have 30 years of experience in local governance, taking into account your experience and those years before reform, why should we need to reform local governance in Ukraine? We should reform local government in Ukraine, and we should have done it 20 years ago. Unfortunately, information was lacking. Maybe society was not ready for this reform, but this should have been reformed. We inherited so-called not self-governance, but survival. Everyone who came to power, they said that we should decentralize, but they depleted us from resources and responsibilities. And then local councils, they were deprived of opportunities. We only got funds, allocated funds, and we got salaries and allocated the salaries, and we're waiting for the next ones. And decentralization is the only chance for a small community like us, because otherwise we will lose everything. Our community, small community, we have 3,000 residents. This is the example. If there is motivated community, we may reach good results. And if we have people, if we have properly motivated managers, the communities will be able to succeed. Look, in the period of reforms, you said that it's not enough to have this instrument provided by the state, such as decentralization. You should be able to use it. It is difficult to convince people, to convince your community to get united. How did you achieve it? And we didn't achieve it to the full. I was the one in Zabolotsivska region who convinced people to create amalgamated communities, and we created 5 or 7 communities. And it was difficult to convince my colleagues. We only convinced one Rajnivska community to get united. And maybe people were afraid because we had bad experience, because there is no consistency in policy and legislation is not adhered to. That's why people have fears. They are afraid because people believe that the situation may turn to worse, and we believe that something should have been done with all of this. I see many beautiful pictures on the screen. Going back to 2016, in March, there was an interview for Voice of Ukraine news outlet, and you said that success is the best thing they can motivate other people. 4 years passed since then, and I remember at the start there were a lot of problems. Some people even were depressed because of this. And 4 years passed, and I see pictures. These are not just pictures. Maybe you will tell us about them. How to convince, and how do you convince others with your success, and what you managed to succeed? So I would like to say that in 3 financial years, because we got direct to financial relations in 2016 and started projects starting summer 2016, so about more than 3 years. During these 3 years, we have done more than in all years of independence. We had subsidies But also people had the opportunity to produce these changes, and they succeeded in implementing the projects, and we need successful examples. When first examples are successful, this is the best motivation for getting united. At the regional and oblast level, I tried to convince them that our success should be positive. This was a huge responsibility because the life and reform depended on our success. And what did you manage to achieve? First money we got before unification, our budget was 500,000, and now we have 3 million for implementation of the projects. So we really liked it, and we carried out surveys, ratings, and people said that the main problem is roads. We need to have lighting in the streets. We have 10 villages, and only in one village we were not able to do this because there were problems with connections, and this project on the overall was successful. And in education sector, also situation was difficult. There was some financing, but it was really costly to maintain this sector, and we had one boiler that was established in 1953, and this boiler now went to history, and due to Deputy Bonder, we created a new boiler, and we warmed the building. We built a boiler house, and our school that was built in 1953, now it looks even better than some new schools. Also, at once, we made an unpopular step. We closed one school that lacked students, and we created a base school, and due to this, we got additional money for financing of the base school. The school got the equipment we couldn't even imagine or dream several years ago, and now children use this equipment, and they have even better equipment than some schools in cities. And what is the opinion of the parents of those children whose school was closed? This was one of the schools. We have 11 children in a primary school, and they said that these are really young children. It is difficult to transport them at 8 in the morning, and we bought one more bus, and these young children were taken later, and we were able to convince their parents to send them to other school, and now I believe that they like where they study when they got equipment, communication, higher level of education. And in big school, there is another level of knowledge. So people understand, parents understand that their children have best prospects. So you connected 10 villages, and we understand that reform should provide favorable conditions for people, for development, for self actualization, to have somewhere to work and to relax. And you have 10 villages, so how do you distribute your attention to all of these villages in order to convince those villages that got united with us? These villages, I would like to say delicately, they were lagging behind from our council, and we believe that all the subsidy, the majority of the funds will be allocated in order to improve material base of these villages. And we created lighting for these villages, and we carried out repair works in the villages that got united with us. People believe that we really care about them. They understood this. And when we implement a project, we speak what we want, what we are going to have from this, and what will be some things that they won't like first, but then there will be good end results. We always explain in order to get support. People should understand why something is done, otherwise people won't support it. And without the support, So even you're a wise man like Solomon, nothing will be good if you do not have good cooperation with people. So you reached some higher level than you had before. We understand that the community should work on the projects that will provide sustainable development, that would create some financial base for the years ahead. And for this, some strategy is needed in order to understand where to move and what to do next. Do you have such a strategy? And how does it develop the projects that are directed for sustainable development? So we started our strategy. And when we spoke about strategy first, we were not able to understand why do we need it. And also we understand that we should spend some money on it. And due to our Polish counterparts from the Foundation of Managerial Initiatives, we wrote the strategy in 2016, and we were really proud of it. And we got a plan of development of the communities until 2025 now. And we understand that we should introduce changes because many things were not taken into account. And also energy efficiency measures were not taken into account. That's why this year we are working with the Center of Local Development in order to introduce changes to our strategy, depending on those challenges we face now. And about the strategy, we adopt a plan of social and economic development of the territory and the list of those objects. After we carried out survey, after we met with the people, we create such lists, and we held strategic sessions, and we have active youth, and we had youth strategic sessions, and we took into account their concerns, and everything is taken into account, whether I will be elected or not. We have goals in our strategic plan, and they will be implemented. The majority of them are taken into account. We have really active youth, and they actively help us in implementation of the initiatives. They do not only file initiatives, but they also implement initiatives themselves, and we are really proud of them. They dreamt about stadium with artificial cover, and by coincidence, I found information on the internet about the GIS program, and our village team applied and they won, and they were really happy about it. And due to this project, our guys, they bought materials. Due to the project, they also provided fences to the stadium. They created some facilities, lowing mounds they provided, and they had now have a shower with hot water, and also we provided lighting for the facility in order to have trainings in the evenings. And we have two grounds, and yesterday we had mini football championship, and there not only the teams of the region participate, but also from Rivnenska Oblast. We had 8 teams that applied. One of our teams got the first place, and we have 2 football team for adults, and also a team for children of different ages. So this project was based on the initiative of young people and their families. So you got new stadium, and I know that also you have a dairy cooperative in your community. How did you achieve it? By coincidence, I got information that there is a project, development of dairy industry in Ukraine, and in Shuvar, in our market, there was a presentation of this project. The implementation of the project was done by Lviv advisory board, and I met them and I got the presentation, and this was a project of the Canadian government, and I invited this agrarian service to us, and we had the first meeting. And in 2008, due to Canadian project, we got funds, and we improved our facilities in 2011. We started to buy equipment. We registered our cooperative, and last year in December we opened our shop and we sell our products in the shop. Our Pokrova is one of the co-founders of the future milk plant that is in the Krasnova, in the neighboring region. This was a decision of the cooperative in order to we were trying to find the best and the cheapest milk, and we found it. This will be about 40 million. 20 million will be provided by Canadian government, and 20 should be collected by the cooperatives of Lvivshchina and Ternopolshchina. They joined us, and our Pokrova cooperative is one of the founders of this plant, and we start to build it. We have preparatory works now, and in spring we will build it. So who are the members of this cooperative? There are 300 people, not only members of community. In 5 years, we created 23 family farms. They get 10. They have 10 or more cows, and 300 families are self-employed. And the cooperative covers Brodyvsky region. In order to support the cooperative, last year, Village Council applied one of the projects to the regional fund of to the State Fund of Regional Development, and we bought a vehicle for bringing the milk, and it may process about 4 or 5 million, and 25 tons per day will be processed by the plant, and we will grow it to 7 million. And we prepared materials about Sergeyevska community. They also have dairy cooperative, and a colleague of ours met a person who has his farm there and has cows, and he said that I won't provide my milk to this cooperative, and they buy it at 10 hryvnias per liter, and but he sells it for 4 hryvnias. Do you have this in your community? So not everyone is the member of cooperative. There are part of people who provide their milk. They go to the market and they sell it themselves, and in the future there will be family farms, and the quality will increase. There will be time when milk will be bought only if it is of quality. We understand this. People who work in the cooperative, they understand it clearly. So they want to have business for themselves and for their children. How can community help in order to create more employment in the territory? Because if people have employment, they will remain. In order to understand what is needed for business, maybe 2 or 2.5 years ago, we met a lot with our entrepreneurs and we asked them what is needed. We had such a precedent when all farms were ruined, they don't know not to pay taxes on property. We met with them and we asked them what they need to work. They said that the price for land should be decreased and the tax on property should be decreased in order that they be able to pay for the property they have, at least for the period when they do not use these premises. And this decision, we have it. It is clearly envisaged in the plan of economic and social development, and for 5 years we won't have changes. This price of land and property won't change, and in 2 years we registered 4 enterprises, 1 poultry factory, 2 small poultry factories, and also solar stations. Zabolotsivska got registered, and in January they are going to be built, and there's a small solar station. We provided 12 hectares, and they will provide 7 megawatts, and we should ask people what is needed, and we should cooperate with them. We understand that conditions should be created for them in order to survive and to prosper in several years together. So what about people's initiative? We heard that youth is really active. And what about adult population? Do they have initiatives? Do they have good ideas? I cannot say that they are all active. This is not true. A rather big part remains skeptical, and they just want to live and see what will happen next. But there are people whom I trust. About 15% of people are active, depending on the project. The 10 or 20 people we have, we may rely on them. If not such people, I do not know whether we would succeed in our community. Zabolotsivska community, if we compare it with other communities where they have 20,000, 7,000, and you have about 3,000 of population. Do you believe that it should be broadened, maybe to increase the number of people? Do you have a need in this? If you asked me 3 years ago, maybe I would say that no, we are self-sufficient and we are able to support ourselves. But I understand that bigger community have better financial and administrative resources in order to achieve success. Yeah, there may be some small communities and they will be able to reach their goals, but they lose many chances. Of course, you should get united, and we work on this. It is a difficult process, and I believe that it cannot be done in 1 year. So it will be done. I believe that communities should understand that the more resources and the more people they have, the more administrative resource they have, the better projects will be implemented. They should understand this, and in small communities it's difficult to implement it. And what inspires you to make new steps to achieve more? Maybe you see successful communities, maybe you have good examples that really impressed you. So yeah, we are inspired by the success of others. Yes, we are interested. Thank God the communities do not patent their achievements. Those 159 communities that got united first, we cooperate with them closely. We would like to meet global SCA community in order to open small cheese plant. Now we plan to create a project for processing of milk to sell it to schools, to institutions. We would like to implement a project like this. Also, there are lines for sorting of wastes in the communities. When it's not only sorts, but some material for roads also are produced from this waste. We should share our experience. During last year, many delegations came to us. We do not only speak about success, we also speak about our mistakes in order not to repeat these mistakes in other communities, because it costs really a lot. So not only positive experience, but also some concerns. So you have more positive than negative experience in your community, but there are still many those who oppose reforms. And what do you connect it with? Let's say, I would like to say this for my colleagues that do not want to get united because they want to show that they are right when they become inactive. There are big concerns provided by people. That's why you should speak. You should communicate with people more. If people have some concerns due to lack of information, you should communicate. You should speak with people. We do not live far, but sometimes I hear some myths about us, and it's just like a joke. And the people then got information and dismantled those myths. But people who are trying to find the reason in order not to get united, they spread those myths. Those who want to do something, they just search for means, and others remain inactive. And there was big myth that if there is no school, there won't be a village, and you closed one school and the village remained. Yes, it remained. And in the free facility, social center will be open. We envisage a room there for families who are vulnerable and in difficult circumstances, and the rest of premises will be used in a different way. And there will be summer camps for our children. And later on, we plan to earn if there will be children from other communities. So if something is closed, there will be other options. Some other enterprises, maybe after school was closed, then there will be a small incubator in the same premise. So the holy place can't be vacant, and it's not only school that provides access to the village. We know that you have a nation's church in your community. Yeah, this year we plan to work on this. We lacked people for this, because in order to do this, you need specialists. We found 2 people. Last week, we employed 2 people, and I believe that we will work on this. So we have many interesting ideas, not only green tourism and agricultural tourism. We also would like to deal with it in Pokrova. And this reform should end in 2020, and local elections will finalize it. And what should the state do? What other instruments should be provided by the state? What other resources should be provided to communities in order that they be able to be successful? Maybe we should not change the rules of the game. Yeah. Even current legislation, if we don't change it, if it continues as it was presented to us, and that was agreed with the communities in 2015, if it remains, I believe the situation would be different. Because there are some changes to legislation, in budget legislation in the mid of year, it cannot provide stability. And I believe that this would be enough. The sustainability and transparency of rules, this is all we need. And equality of rules for everyone. And how do you see your community in about 10 years? It should be capable, competitive, successful, big. And of course, it should be Zabolotsivska community. Maybe it should be the underground station. No, we do not need underground stations, but we will create a center for development. And at the end of our discussion, I would like to ask you, what would you advise, how to convince people to get united? If someone searches for information, I would like to say that in the media we have enough information, positive examples. And if a person wants to find information, he or she may find it easily. To convince people, if the head of the community, if the leadership wants to do this, then people will be convinced. We should travel to other communities, and we should see what our neighbors do, and people will see it, and they will see that you may become successful. And do you have some regrets? We do not have regrets. If we didn't do it in 2015, we won't have any chances. Now we have not only a chance, we have good prospects for development of the amalgamated, territorial, capable, powerful community. So we would like to end our press briefing. I would like to remind you that we had today Mariya Dyskant, head of Zabolotsivska amalgamated territorial community from Lviv. Thank you and goodbye.